Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Wireless Buffet. My name is Nick Dinsmoor. I am the guest host today, and we have very exciting guests and conversations. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel, and I'll start with Al Brown. I want to introduce yourself and who you are and what you do.
Hey, Nick, glad to be here. Al Brown, President and CEO of SmartWAVE Technologies. And at SmartWAVE, we are a wireless-centric design build firm. And over the last couple of years, we've been really excited about the projects we've been involved in, especially around community wireless broadband, trying to make a difference in these communities, Nick.
Absolutely. I think we all have that similar shared drive and purpose. And the other fine gentleman on the podcast today, Mr. Zach Hubeck, want to introduce yourself and where do you hail from?
Hello, Nick. Hello, Al. Big fan and love you guys first and foremost. From Chicago. So a company I work for is WAVE. We're a Chicago-based distributor. So we're, if you think of a true channel model of manufacturer, distributor, network integrator, service provider, we're in that disty tier. And I do hail from Chicago. I'm a Chicago lifer, and I'm really happy to be here today, guys. So thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. So I think obviously there's lots to discuss in the broadband world, and today, given the we've got Zach on, I think a lot of the discussion will be talking around the importance of planning, the importance of distribution, and setting up the right processes to make sure that these large implementations go well, and at the end of the day, serve the communities and serve the greater good. So with that, I'll turn it over to Al to maybe comment and ask some questions of our guest.
Yeah, you bet, Nick. I tell you what, one thing about these programs for a community wireless broadband, it takes a village, right? I mean, it is not an easy task. It's a brave new world out there. We're an IT-based company, but these projects can be very involved in all departments of the city, to include public works and IT, the city manager's office, transportation, all these different groups. And that's just on one side of the equation. And at SmartWAVE, what we try to do a good job of is we're kind of like that duck, right? Floating on top of the water with those feet just paddling like crazy underneath the water. And what makes that duck move? It's partners and partnerships with companies like WAVE and Zach here. So I'm really excited to have Zach on the podcast for this one. And
is he the duck at the top, or is he the feet on the bottom?
He's the feet, man. He's hustling. He's hustling for us. He's making things happen. I'll tell you, here's how it goes, Nick. In this business, you got to move in fast pace. You got a lot of expectations. You gotta meet, right? And we're out there making some promises, and Zach's fulfilling the commitments. I mean, it's amazing what these guys are able to do over at WAVE, and they keep a sense of humor about it too, because they know that we're gonna put them to the test every once in a while, right?
It's good you guys don't see my feet right now. I'm kicking like crazy. Cool, calm, and collected up top.
Well, Zach, why don't you comment? Why don't you explain a little bit about how does distribution play into this? Because I think a lot of people, again, they work with SmartWAVE and they work with people that are working through the design and implementation. They don't always really understand what goes on under the water, right? Of how that actually works. So maybe you can give us some context for what it is and how important it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's perception of distribution is, hey, you're a bank and a truck, and just ship me the bucks, man. That's all it takes, right? And there is a lot more planning that goes into it. And really, when you talk about, I think Al hit the nail on the head, and we have an internal mantra as well, as how do we connect America? How do we connect Canada? Because we also have involvement in Canada. How do we connect people faster? The pandemic totally accelerated and really demonstrated that we've got this huge digital divide, this is this huge, digital divide is just an overused term, but it couldn't be more true. When you start hearing about kids in Texas who can't connect to school, or a child is falling behind in school scholastically and getting bad grades because they just don't have internet access, that to me, it's just, it's almost criminal. And it's like, how do we make a difference, and how do we accomplish this together? And it is a true, takes a tribe, takes a community to get this thing done. Really, when the pandemic hit, everybody no longer was within these four walls, and they all went home. So it was school from home, it was businesses from home. And so the demand for the wares that we distribute and stock on our shelves and help Al out with, the demand absolutely spiked. And then you have that with supply chain chokes, where manufacturing facilities get shut down, ports get shut down. So this huge, huge demand just spiked. And now you have shutdowns and things like that. It absolutely emphasized the fact that we need to be better in our planning, better in our communication with our partners. It made us more nimble as an organization, and we really pride ourselves on, we don't have solution A for you, Al. We have solution B or C, and how can we work together to accomplish that ultimate goal? So of connecting America. And really, so it just shone a big, big light on our business, better planners, better communication, and be super nimble, more nimble than you have ever been. And a lot of that stuff happens in the backdrop with our supply chain team, our engineers, our folks that do staging services, and a lot of those things. So true team effort, and there's a good sampling of a lot of the things that go on in the background.
Well, I tell you, Zach, we really appreciated the support through the pandemic. I mean, I can't imagine what that business might be like. I mean, you guys represent a lot of different manufacturers, right?
Yep.
And I mean, how do you even begin, right, with the communication with all these different parties? I mean, do you find yourselves ending up picking up different lines, dropping different lines? Kind of, how does all that impact your business?
Yeah, we didn't drop a single one during the pandemic, Al, but it really did emphasize that just like our 401k portfolios or our investment portfolios, you need to be diverse. And not one manufacturer was shielded or got it just absolutely right and crushed it when we've experienced a lot of these supply chain constraints. And so we emphasize to our group and our partners, have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. Are there other technologies you can look at that will ultimately achieve that connectivity? So what we did is we looked for ways to diversify more, to accelerate on looking at a variety of manufacturers that can help our partners like you. And we came out the other end fairly unscathed. And we're not out of the weeds yet as far as supply chain constraints and issues. We're seeing improvements. We're optimistic that the second half of the year here, we're going to see some improvements, but I think we're still in 2023 where we need to be in this super planning, super nimble mode. So we look to diversify out.
Yeah,
he
was like the duck that was swimming around the evergreen that was blocking the Panama Canal. Like, just was
exactly. Exactly. How do you plan for that?
Yeah.
Hard stuck for what? 20 days, 30 days?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, yeah, that's what I think that would a lot of these, even the cities and the municipalities and the people that are wanting the broadband, they don't understand that, or they don't care, and they probably shouldn't care, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, a lot of these funds, they have a time limit on it, right? So if you can't ship the product, you can't invoice for it.
Yep.
And so if you're waiting 6 months and then you kind of pass your window, that's not a good thing. Right. So with respect to WAVE, now there are other distributors that are in the marketplace, obviously, right? But we see WAVE a little different from the others. I'd just like to hear your impression. I mean, knowing your competition, Zach, how do you view WAVE as different from your competition and the impact it can have for a company like SmartWAVE?
Sure. So really, I've never had a bad thing to say about our competitors. We all have our own strengths, and I'll just talk to our strengths and how we perform and how we show up. When you look at WAVE, it's not just WAVE. We have a wholly owned subsidiary called Last Mile Gear, and they're in Washington State. And we also have a Canadian joint venture, MBSI WAVE, and they're up in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And so really, when you engage with a WAVE or one of those other entities, you're really engaging in three. So that's 3 times the supply chain smarts. That's 3 times the logistical teams and warehouse capabilities. 3 times the forecasting power and the buying power with our manufacturers. So you have heavier influence in working with us, where we have a lot of different manufacturer relationships, a very diverse portfolio, and you've got 3 entities watching your back when we engage. And there's a lot of other things we do. I mentioned very crudely in the beginning, bank and a truck, but there's a lot of other things that we offer. When you have a solution, Al, you had mentioned, we have a project, we've got 6 months, the funding is running out. We've got an order that is waiting on 2 switches or 3 switches. Mm-hmm. Our engineering team and our product managers and supply chain team, we go into, I want to call it very crudely, Frankenstein mode. And it's like, okay, what switches do we have available today? What SFP options do we need? What does Al and his team want to accomplish to ultimately connect these folks? And can we look at an alternative solution? And we spend that time with our engineers. How do we get this done? How do we get this done? Advance the ball. And that is the mission. And so we're not just oh, sorry, Al, you ordered these SKUs. It's going to be, 7 months, not in your 6-month time frame. Sorry, you may want to try elsewhere. It's how do we get this done for SmartWAVE and those kids that are right behind that project, that that's community that's right behind that project. And we take great pride in that. So those are ways we differentiate. Now, if I've answered your question, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, I tell you, in thinking about the different products and the different choices, one thing that I've just been curious about is like how, technology is changing all the time, right? Yep. It's a very exciting time to be in the wireless space right now. There are so many really cool technologies with, this teragraph millimeter wave, yep. Massive MIMO, 5G technology, Wi-Fi 6, 6E, 7, yep. All this stuff coming down the pipe. I mean, if you're a Wi-Fi geek, I mean, yep. Now's a great time to be breathing air, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, how do you guys go about selecting products, right? Because you change your line card every once in a while, right? You make some updates here and there and stuff like that. I just, help me out with that vetting process that you go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So it certainly starts at the executive level and engaging with a partner. Just to hone in on a technology for just 1 second, Al, the thing that really geeks me out as far as like, how fast can we get this thing going? How much throughput and how much bandwidth can we push through wirelessly where a fiber doesn't make sense? Guess what? You cannot trench fiber through a river. You cannot trench fiber through ancestral burial grounds and First Nations and tribal communities. And if you look at the advent of all these technologies, you went through the alphabet soup, Al, and it's wicked awesome. You look at how fast these products are offering fiber-like speeds, gigabit, multi-gigabit. It's like, wow, it is a cool time to be us's because we can deliver just rock solid speeds and fast and connect these folks and connect a lot of them. So that's way cool. To get back to your very specific question about how we vet that, we start at the executive level and work with industry partners or a specific manufacturer. Our engineering team is next up. So the executive team talks through, all right, is this a potential technology we want to vet with our engineering team? And then we go into roll up the sleeves mode with the engineers. We'll receive the gear, we'll test it in our labs. We'll set up a point-to-point link if we want to, or a networking Wi-Fi or switch product. We'll test it internally and we'll put it through its paces and say, you know what, is this the right product for our customers? Is this the right product for Al? when we get it out in the field, is it going to stand up on its two legs? And if it doesn't pass our sniff test internally, we're never even introducing it to you, Al, or other partners. And so we put it through that rigorous engineering test first. We want to make sure we can stamp the WAVE name on it, the last mile gear name, the MBSI WAVE name first, because the last thing we want to do is have truck rolls or other things that are just going to be these hiccups in time for guys like you and others, where they have to truck roll and rip something out and put something new in its place. And so that's a little sliver of the process, Al. And then we will also, the next step thereafter is we'll engage with partners like you and say, you know what, Al, we're thinking about this. What are your thoughts? Have you heard of it? Do you see a market for it? Will it fit within your portfolio and all the projects you're working on? Will that work for you? So those are really three areas on where we focus.
Well, you guys do a good job of training up and things like that, right? I mean, you have internal folks that adapt that technology knowledge. I guess that's through the labs and things like that, right? But
absolutely,
and training programs on those different products you select. You kind of serve a couple of different markets of customers. I mean, you have like I know you can do a lot of stuff with wireless internet service providers, but you do a lot of work with network integrators, and we're kind of a hybrid of both of those, if you will. Yep. We have some clients we do traditional network integration work. We have other clients we manage their infrastructure.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you cater to those different markets? I mean, how do you view those two different markets with product selections and so forth?
Yeah, so the product selection is only like the tip of the iceberg there, Al, and both models, you have different needs as far as financing terms and CapEx versus OpEx. And it's a totally different model when you are a service provider. You've got to have that 24/7, 365 knock, because it is 1-800-SmartWAVE if people can't connect to the internet. And you're offering that as a service to your customers. And so we do consider that within the vetting process with our products. Is this more integrator focused? Is this more of a managed service provider play? I mentioned the financing and the staging that we do internally. And it's not just knowing which products are applicable for which market or which player in that role. It's a matter of understanding their entire business. So going back to your previous question, Al, how do we differentiate ourselves? We have that dialogue at the CFO level, at the executive level, at the sales rep level, where we fully understand your business. And it's just not a, hey, you're a credit app, let's see if you're credit worthy and give you a credit line and ship you some stuff. It's how can we help you accomplish the mission? And those are really ways we differentiate ourselves.
That's great. That's great.
I'd be curious, guys, you guys are both in the you're delivering services. So it'd be interesting if you both define, like, how do you see the word, we throw the word customer experience around, right? The experience you provide, each of you have different customers. How do you, I guess, Al, maybe how do you define a customer experience you want to deliver? And then we'll flip it to Zach.
Well, I mean, for us, we're not really an organization that's good at pushing boxes. Our approach has always been more of a consultative sell, right? In SmartWAVE, we're probably most heavy on the engineering design piece as far as our capabilities and the value that we bring to our clients. And when we go through the deployment, we typically, outsource that locally. So when we engage in a client from the get-go, the intent is to solve a problem. And with SmartWAVE, and especially with wireless and what we just talked about, there's so many different ways to get from point A to point B wirelessly today. There's a lot of options that are available, and some options are better than others. So it's a pretty consultative process. So what we want to achieve out of that is building a trusting relationship. Because on top of being a consultative type of approach, we are a very relationship-based company, and that's why we work well with WAVE. I think it's important for us to have a very good relationship with our clients, with our employees, with our distribution partners like WAVE, with our manufacturer partners, and so forth. Because have we not built and forged those relationships, navigating this pandemic, I would have pulled my hair out even more. And I don't have any to give, Nick. It's like, what are we going to show up to work with today? Right? What kind of challenge do we have ahead of us today? And, you gotta, when you build those relationships, you can address that challenge with a little bit of humor, and that softens the edges, and it gets the focus back in line on problem solving. And that's what we do every day for our clients with building those relationships, and they trust us for that, right? So with that being said, when it comes relying on other parties, I talked about, the duck on top of the water coasting and the feet just moving like crazy. Well, while we're trying to calm that customer down that's going through this same thing of the pandemic, that they can't go out and read a book about, how do I handle this situation? How do I handle this situation? Because the book hasn't been written yet, right? I mean, we're living it right now.
Yeah.
So having partners where that relationship comes in place, and we go, hey man, it's not time to sell me now. It's time to help me, and helping me by being honest about what you have, what you don't have, some options, what are the pros and cons of it. So I can communicate that. And our clients, we can make good decisions. Our clients can make good, educated decisions. Because a lot of times in markets like this, it may not be the best solution. It may be the best solution available. And that keeps the ball moving down the field, right? And that's what Zach talked about.
All right, great. I totally agree. I mean, Zach, what do you think from your perspective? How would you define customer experience?
I think Al totally stole my answer. Let me start by saying that.
Maybe repeat it. It's just we have some background noise. Yeah.
It does get back to solving problems. There was no COVID-19. How do I keep my business moving? How do I keep my company healthy? How do I take care of my customers during COVID-19? There is no manual for that. And as a distributor, I talked very early on about people often think as a distributor as a bank in a truck, know your role, very little value, just ship us some stuff and call us next time, give us a line of credit, and we're good. And there's an inherent risk at distribution where you can be commoditized or put in a corner like, nope, that's just your role. You're a price, you're a bank in a truck, and that's it. And really, it does get back to solving problems for people, understanding the ebbs and flows of cash flow of federal funding, because a federal expectation of an install does not necessarily match a federal expectation of when the money should flow. And, I think Al's pulled out a few follicles himself in embracing those challenges. And what we try to do, we offer programs like for E-rate funding. That's a 90-day terms program that we have, because we understand you have to complete an E-rate install before the money flows to you. And so it's really about solving problems. We want people to think, when I have my next project, when I want to connect this next community, I want WAVE to be top of mind. And I want them to walk away from our business, walk away from engaging with our business, thinking, you know what, these guys watched my back. They took care of me. And that's what we're all about.
Awesome. That's a great answer. Is there anything that you think from, on the partnerships that either of you would, want the communities and want the people that are trying to get the end recipients to know about, things to think about? What's the checkbox of like, hey, I should be thinking about this, this, and this, at least when we think about partnerships, and even who's behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, from our side, like with distributors, here's some things we like about WAVE, right? We like that, one, they carry the products that we use, that we don't use in most of our deployments. So for us to be able to order all of the items from a single entity and a single bill of materials and a single account, that transactional cost goes down for us. And for a small organization, that it's very important, right? Because we have individuals that wear multiple hats of responsibility and have different responsibilities. The other thing is that, from a finance term, WAVE has that ability to step in if we have a slow payer. Sometimes you can get caught up, an invoice can get caught up in government bureaucracy, right? And there's nothing anybody did wrong. It's just that maybe it sat on someone's desk. It had to go through another approval. You've got somebody on vacation, then they come back, the next person in the line, they go on vacation, so it moves things out, right? But WAVE and SmartWAVE, we've always been extremely transparent about what's going on, when, and so forth. So it's good to have that. And we always try to pay our invoices ahead of time so that when that does happen, we've set an expectation of good credit, right? So we have a responsibility there, right? The other thing is that, when the pandemic did start in 2020, I mean, we experienced an influx of growth of opportunities because of our uniqueness in building these, large community wireless broadband networks for cities and counties. And with that being said, we had a lot of resources that we had to cross-train on different areas, right? And we had to look at where we could subcontract and outsource different services to help, stay on track with respect to our project schedule. And, so we looked to our partners first in that. And one of the things that WAVE helped us with was staging and kitting of the product. And it made sense, right? Because the product was being provided from their warehouse facilities. Our engineering team worked with their engineering team to stage and configure. We provided access into the SmartWAVE cloud for control of the APs, for example, things like that. And then the items were shipped and they were ready to be installed. So that helped us accelerate our business and time to market so that we could hit that invoice and get paid and pay WAVE as well. But that's one of the things, Nick, that I was thinking about.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to add on to that just for a second here, it all gets back to the mission again of, yes, we've got to get timely payments and things like that, and we've really got to connect these communities. And when you take, I'm glad Al has had the insight and the faith in WAVE to help his group in doing a lot of these staging solutions. There's a lot of trust there. There's a secret sauce, that SmartWAVE brings to this connectivity and trusting us to do that, those firmware upgrades, those staging, all that does down the row, all the way down to that end user, is it means we're going to connect them faster. When the shipment shows up at Al's location, they're not running to Radio Shack for a coaxial cable. They're not trying to unpack a bunch of products and throw marketing materials out and a bunch of corrugated and like, oh, I finally have my hands on the AP. Now we've got to put a sticker on it. We've got to deploy it here. Those are the things that we offer to expedite the process. And
I can't even find a Radio Shack anymore, Zach.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I totally aged myself. Yeah, all you do right now is click Amazon. It's there the next day. But it's avoiding the headaches like that and just making it a frictionless deployment environment. That's what we strive for. And that's different than just being a bank and a truck.
Well, you could say, technically WAVE, there is WAVE inside SmartWAVE. So
there you
can't have SmartWAVE without WAVE.
That's the WAVE.
You got to ride the wave.
Yeah, we'll talk later about how you spell that. I think you're spelling it wrong, buddy.
I'll put the small e.
There you go.
It's the duck that's on the wave that's riding the wave.
There we go. Absolutely.
New logo.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, is there any, obviously we've had a lot of conversation about distribution, the value of it, how it works to support the purpose and mission of bringing broadband. Is there other topics that you want to cover to make sure that we're educating and informing the audience about today?
Well, as far as kind of what the future holds, right, Zach? Because chipset challenges. I hear, I get a brand new, I have a brand new appreciation for what our manufacturer partners are going through, right? Because of the ebbs and flow in the market availability and the laws of supply and demand with respect to everything that's being purchased and sold and fabricated. And from a planning standpoint, where, this week I may be able to match my price on this piece of equipment, or this component, and then next week this price is double for this component, right? But yeah, when I put it together, I still got to be the same list price, right? So, I mean, how are you guys? I mean, what are you guys seeing there as our greatest challenge? Just from the manufacturing community, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's when you look at something as simple as a network switch, there's so much componentry that goes into that, and we've heard woes from our manufacturers of, look, we have a complete switch build and we need that last part, which has now become obsolete by XYZ supplier, or I can only find that on the secondary market. Now it's 14x what it used to cost, or 30x what it used to cost. I do not envy any of our position in this whole supply chain mess, but our manufacturers, it's very, very thankless, and they're doing everything from expediting things in from overseas on an airplane versus a boat. They are redesigning hardware products on the fly to make sure it meets spec, to make sure it's going to have that high quality performance that they advertise, and they're having to redesign some of their products. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing today, and is just compounding this. But I think, getting back to your original statement, Al, of it does take a tribe. It does require communication all the way up and down the channel. What are the most important projects? Who are the customers I'm serving? What are the products they're using? Do they want a Wi-Fi 6? But if they were using a Wi-Fi 5 solution, would the network even sweat? If the answer is no, let's look at a Wi-Fi 5 and let's connect those kids or that community or that senior living community. And it's just, we've got to make some decisions while we're navigating this pain point. And it's all about being nimble and being just smart, really thinking about the future. How do we just get it done with what we have available today? It's really a time to roll up the sleeves and just get it done for these kids.
Yep. Well said.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, there's no shortage of things to do in 2022 and beyond. All right, gentlemen?
You're absolutely right.
Amen.
All right.
Awesome. Any other things you guys want to cover today?
No, I just got to say that SmartWAVE just absolutely sets the bar when you look at taking care of the community, professional organization, communicative, really working with us. We couldn't be happier with Al and his team and the partnership. And it's just great. A great partnership. And Al, I want to say just thank you for having me today and actually highlighting distribution. It rarely happens in my seat. A lot of people, I keep getting back to it, but a lot of people are like, you're a distributor, you're in the channel, whatever. And it's partners like you that see the value, that work with us and vice versa, and just really see that as a true partnership. And you're a gentleman. So thank you, sir, and to your team.
Yep. We appreciate you guys, Zach.
Awesome. Well, to our audience, thank you again for another episode of Wireless Buffet. Our guest, and as Zach said, it's very unusual. We highlight distribution, so it's awesome to be able to bring that different angle, different perspective, and talk about the things that are really important to delivering the purpose that SmartWAVE and WAVE have. And I'd like to thank our sponsor today, which is CommScope Ruckus, for sponsoring this episode. And you can reach us online through the SmartWAVE site. You can learn more information about them as well as WAVE Online. And you can listen to this podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks a lot and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.